Have you ever found something important in a place where you didn't expect it? Not money, not a phone, but something that feels personal. A small object that tells a story even before you open it. Today, I have a B1 story for you about a notebook, a promise, and a chain of small choices. And as you listen, you'll practice natural English at an intermediate pace. Welcome to English SpeechLab. My name is Eleanor, and I'll be your narrator today. This is a calm, clear story for B1 learners. You don't need to understand every single word. Just listen, follow the meaning, and enjoy the flow. If you want to practice speaking, you can pause the video and repeat a sentence out loud. That tiny habit can make a big difference. And if you like stories like this, please subscribe for more listening practice. All right, let's begin. It was a Monday morning in late autumn when the air feels clean and sharp. The trees had fewer leaves and the streets looked brighter because of it. Lena walked slowly, not because she was tired, but because she was thinking. She had moved to a new city 2 weeks ago and she still felt like a guest. She knew her apartment, her work laptop, and the nearest grocery store. But she didn't know people yet. Lena worked online, so her days were quiet. She liked quiet, but not all the time. That morning, she decided to start a simple routine. She would walk for 20 minutes, buy a coffee, and sit somewhere with other humans. Not to talk to strangers, not yet. Just to feel part of the city. At the corner of Brook Street, she saw a small cafe with warm light in the windows. A sign above the door said, Harbor Cafe. The name made her smile. A harbor is a place where ships can rest. Maybe she needed a harbor too. Inside, the cafe smelled like coffee, cinnamon, and toasted bread. Soft music played in the background. There were students with notebooks, workers with headphones, and one older man reading a newspaper. The room felt normal in the best way. Lena ordered a latte and a small sandwich. She chose a table near the window where she could watch the street. Then she opened her bag and pulled out her own notebook. It was a habit from university days. When her mind was full, she wrote things down. She wrote a simple list. Buy dish soap. Send that email. Walk again tomorrow. She liked lists because they made life feel manageable. When she finished eating, she stood up to throw away her napkin. As she walked to the trash bin, she noticed something under the chair at the next table. It was a small black notebook. Not a fancy one, but neat and well used. The table was empty. Someone had left it behind. Lena hesitated for a moment. She didn't want to touch a stranger's things. But if it stayed there, someone else might take it. Or the staff might throw it away by mistake. She picked it up carefully. It felt heavier than her own notebook. On the first page, there was a name written in blue ink. Howard Finch. Below the name, there was a phone number. And below that, a short sentence. If found, please call. Lena exhaled slowly. That made things easier. She could call. She could return it. A small problem with a clear solution. She walked to the counter, holding the notebook close to her chest. A barista with curly hair looked up and smiled. Everything okay? The barista asked. I found this under a chair, Lena said, lifting the notebook slightly. It has a name and a number inside. I was going to call, but I wanted to tell you first. Ah, yes, the barista said. I saw an older gentleman leave in a hurry about 10 minutes ago. He looked worried. Thank you for noticing. The barista pointed to a small box near the register. We keep lost items here, they said. If you want, I can call the number. Lena looked at the notebook again. For some reason, she wanted to do it herself. Not because she didn't trust the cafe, but because it felt like a chance to be useful in her new city. I'll call, she said, if that's okay. Of course, the barista replied. Let me know if you need anything. Lena stepped outside where the air was colder. She held her phone in one hand and the notebook in the other. Then she typed the number and pressed call. It rang once. It rang twice. Then a voice answered. It was a man's voice, a little breathless, like he had been walking fast. Hello, he said. Hi, Lena said carefully. My name is Lena. I think I found your notebook. It says Howard Finch inside." There was a short silence on the line. Then the man breathed out like he had been holding his breath. "Oh, thank goodness," he said. "Yes, that's mine. I must have dropped it at Harbor Cafe. I turned around, but I couldn't find it." "I have it," Lena said. "I'm standing outside the cafe right now. You can come back and pick it up." The man hesitated. "That's very kind," he said. "But I'm not close anymore. I'm at the library. I needed to check something quickly. It's the Central Library on King Road." Lena looked down the street. She didn't know King Road well, but she could check a map. It would take time, but not too much. "I can bring it to you," she heard herself say, "if you tell me where to meet you." "Would you?" the man asked. He sounded surprised and also relieved. "That would save me a lot of trouble. I'm at the front desk area. I'm wearing a gray coat and a green scarf. And I'm holding a newspaper because I always do that when I'm nervous." Lena laughed softly. "Okay," she said. "I'm on my way." Before Lena started walking, she took a quick look inside the notebook again. Not to read private thoughts, but to understand why he sounded so stressed. The pages were filled with neat handwriting. Not poems or stories, but reminders and instructions. There were lists like keys, wallet, phone, notebook. There were times written next to names like 200, call doctor, sing. There were small notes in the corners like breathe and don't rush. And on one page there was a sentence underlined twice. Return the blue envelope today. Lena frowned. A blue envelope. Why was it so important? She closed the notebook again. Whatever it meant, it was clearly connected to the library. She checked her phone map and started walking. The route led her through a park and across a wide road. As she walked, she noticed the city in a new way. A dog running after a red ball. A group of teenagers laughing near the bus stop. An old couple sharing one umbrella, even though it wasn't raining. Lena felt a small warmth in her chest. It wasn't happiness exactly. It was something quieter. A sense that she was part of a moving world, not standing outside it. 10 minutes later, she reached the Central Library. The building was old stone, with tall windows and a wide staircase. People went in and out quietly, as if the air itself asked for silence. Inside, it was warm. The smell was different from the cafe. It was paper, dust, and something like polished wood. Lena walked toward the front desk, looking for a gray coat and a green scarf. She saw him immediately. He was standing slightly to the side, holding a newspaper folded under his arm. His scarf was green but faded, like it had been washed many times. When he saw Lena, his eyes widened. "You must be Lena," he said, stepping forward. "I'm Howard. Howard Finch." Lena offered the notebook with both hands. "Here you go," she said. "I found it under a chair at the cafe." Howard took it like it was fragile. His fingers trembled slightly. He opened it, looked at the first page, and nodded. Then he closed it again and held it to his chest. "I can't tell you how much this means," he said. "I know it's only a notebook. But for me, it's my memory." Lena blinked. She didn't know what to say, so she said the truth. "I'm glad I found it," she said. "It has your number inside, so it was easy to call." Howard smiled, but it looked tired. "I write that number on the first page because I lose things," he said. "Not often, but enough that I learned to prepare." He looked at her carefully. "Would you mind walking with me for a minute? I need to do one more thing and I'm a little distracted." Lena could have said no. She had work waiting at home. But something in his voice made her want to help. And honestly, she had nowhere urgent to be. "Sure," she said. "What do you need to do?" Howard nodded toward a hallway. "I need to return a blue envelope," he said. "It's for the local history office here. I borrowed some old letters to read at home. They belong to the city archives. And today is the deadline." Lena remembered the underlined sentence. Now it made sense. If he had lost the notebook, he might have forgotten the deadline. They walked together down the hallway. Howard moved carefully like he was counting his steps. Lena matched his pace. On the wall, there were posters about reading clubs and community events. One poster said, "Story Night, Share a True Experience." Another said, "Volunteer Day, Help Organize the Book Sale." Lena felt a small spark of interest. Maybe this library could become part of her new routine. They reached a small office door with a sign, "Local History Room." Howard knocked softly. A woman opened the door. She was around 50, with bright eyes and a purple cardigan. "Howard," she said warmly. "I was just about to call you." Howard held up the blue envelope like a peace offering. "I have it," he said. "Safe and sound." The woman laughed. "Good," she said. "And who is your friend?" "This is Lena," Howard said. "She saved my morning. I left my notebook at the cafe and she brought it here." The woman's face softened. "That's lovely," she said. "I'm Mrs. Patel. I run this room and I guard our old stories like they're treasure." Lena smiled. "It's nice to meet you," she said. Mrs. Patel took the envelope and opened a folder. She checked a paper inside, then nodded. "All good," she said. "Thank you, Howard." Howard looked relieved, as if a weight had lifted. "Now I can breathe," he said quietly. Mrs. Patel looked at Lena again. "Are you new to Bristol?" she asked. Lena paused. Bristol was the city's name, and yes, she was new. "Yes," she said. "I moved here recently." "Then you should come to Story Night," Mrs. Patel said. "It's Thursday evening. People share a true story, just 5 minutes. No pressure though," she added quickly. "You can just listen." Lena felt nervous and curious at the same time. "I'll think about it," she said. Howard glanced at the poster outside the door. "Story Night is good," he said. "I used to go with my wife." He said "used to" softly, like the words were delicate. A quiet moment passed between them. Lena wasn't sure if she should ask a question. So she didn't. Sometimes silence is respectful. Mrs. Patel closed the folder and smiled again. "Anyway," she said, brightening her tone, "I'm glad you two met. Small moments like this keep a city kind." Howard turned to Lena. "Would you like a tea?" he asked. "There's a little reading room upstairs. I owe you at least that." Lena almost refused, but then she remembered her goal for the day. To be around people. To feel connected. "Okay," she said. "Tea sounds nice." Upstairs, the reading room was bright and quiet. Large windows looked out over the park. A few people sat with books and someone typed slowly on a laptop. Howard bought 2 teas from a small machine and brought them to a corner table. He moved more calmly now. The notebook sat on the table beside his cup, like a quiet friend. "I'm sorry if I seemed dramatic," Howard said, stirring his tea. "It's just that," he paused. He looked at his hands, then at Lena. "My memory isn't what it used to be. Some days are fine. Some days I lose a word or I forget why I walked into a room. And when I lose my notebook, I feel like I lose myself." Lena listened carefully. She wanted to say something helpful but not silly. "That sounds scary," she said. "But I like how you prepare," she added. "You write reminders. You make systems. That's smart." Howard smiled. "Thank you," he said. "My wife used to say the same." He looked out the window. "After she passed away, I started writing more. Not because I wanted to be organized. Because I didn't want to forget the small things about her." Lena felt a tightness in her throat. She nodded slowly. Howard opened the notebook and flipped to a page near the middle. He showed it to Lena. The page was titled Promises. Under the title there were short lines, each with a date. "These are promises I made to myself," he said. "Small ones. Like walk to the park on Wednesday. Or call my sister on Sunday. He tapped another line. And this one. Return the blue envelope today. He shook his head with a small laugh. Without the notebook, I might have missed the deadline. Lina took a sip of her tea. It's interesting, she said. Promises can be tiny, but they still matter. Howard nodded. Exactly, he said. And that's why I'm grateful to you. You helped me keep a promise. They sat quietly for a moment, listening to the soft sound of pages turning. Then Howard cleared his throat. I have a question, he said. Would you be willing to help me with something else? Lina raised her eyebrows. Maybe, she said. What is it? Howard looked slightly embarrassed. It's not big, he said. But it's important to me. I'm supposed to meet someone at the street market this afternoon. My neighbor's grandson. He wants to buy an old camera from me. I promised I'd bring it. But I get confused with directions sometimes. And the market can be crowded. Lina thought about it. It sounded like a simple errand. And it sounded like a chance to learn the city. Also, she liked Howard. He was honest and a little funny and clearly trying. I can help, Lina said. When is the meeting? Howard checked his notebook. 2:30, he said. At the clock tower near the market entrance. Lina glanced at her phone. She could make that work. Okay, she said. I'll meet you there. Howard's shoulders relaxed. Thank you, he said again, but this time it sounded less desperate. It sounded like hope. Pause and practice with me for a moment. I'll say a sentence from the story. You can pause the video and repeat it out loud. Sentence 1, I found your notebook under a chair. Sentence 2, I'm on my way to the library. Sentence 3, promises can be small but they matter. Sentence 4, I can help you with directions. Now one more tip. When you say I'm on my way, connect the sounds smoothly. I'm on me way. Great. Let's go back to the story. Lina went home and worked for a few hours. But her mind kept returning to the morning. It felt strange how one lost object could change the shape of a day. If she had walked one street earlier, she might not have entered the cafe. If she had sat at a different table, she might not have seen the notebook. A different choice and everything would be different. At 2:20, Lina put on her coat and left again. The sky had turned pale gray and the wind felt stronger. She walked toward the street market, following signs and a busy flow of people. The market was set up in a long square. Stalls sold fruit, bread, flowers, and handmade crafts. A man played a violin near the corner. The music mixed with voices and footsteps. It was lively but not too loud. Lina spotted the clock tower at the entrance. It was shorter than she expected, made of dark stone. A round clock face looked down at everyone, calm and patient. Howard was already there. He stood with a small bag in his hand. The green scarf was back, and he looked more confident than in the morning. Right on time, he said when he saw Lina. You kept your promise. Lina smiled. You too, she said. You brought the camera. Howard patted the bag. It's in here, he said. And I wrote it down 3 times so I wouldn't forget it. Lina laughed. Good strategy, she said. They waited for a moment, scanning faces. Howard had described the boy as tall with a red hat. But in a market, red hat could mean many people. A few minutes later, a teenager approached. He was tall and slim, and yes, he wore a red hat. He carried a backpack and looked slightly out of breath. Mr. Finch, he asked. Howard nodded. And you must be Samir, he said. Samir grinned. Yes, he said. My grandma sent me. She said you have an old camera that still works. I collect them. Howard opened the bag carefully. He pulled out a vintage camera wrapped in a soft cloth. Samir's eyes lit up. Wow, Samir said. This is beautiful. He held it gently, turning it in his hands. I can't believe you're selling it. Howard smiled. It deserves to be used, he said. It belonged to my wife. She took photos of everything, even boring things like clouds and teacups. She said boring things become interesting later. Samir nodded as if he understood. That's true, he said. My phone has thousands of photos, but none of them feel special. This camera feels special. Lena watched them and felt like she was seeing two different generations meet in a quiet way. Not arguing, not judging, just sharing something. Samir pulled out an envelope and offered it to Howard. Howard waved his hand. Keep it, he said. Use that money to buy film or batteries or whatever you need. Samir looked shocked. No, I can't, he said. It's not fair. Howard leaned closer, lowering his voice. Let me make a deal, he said. You take the camera, and in return, you promise to print one photo for me. One photo every month for 1 year. Just something you see in your life. A street, a friend, a tree, a bus stop. Anything. That will be my payment. Samir stared at him. Then he smiled slowly. Okay, he said. I can do that. I promise. Howard nodded. Good, he said. I like promises. Lena felt a small shock of emotion. It was such a simple exchange, but it felt meaningful. Howard wasn't just giving away a camera. He was building a bridge to the future. Samir glanced at Lena. And you are, he asked politely. I'm Lena, she said. I found Howard's notebook this morning. Samir's eyes widened. Seriously, he said. That's lucky. My grandma says the city rewards people who pay attention. Howard chuckled. Your grandma is wise, he said. Samir adjusted his backpack. I should go, he said. But I'll bring the first photo soon. Howard lifted a hand in goodbye. Take care, he said. When Samir walked away into the crowd, Lena and Howard stood near the clock tower again. For a moment, they didn't speak. The market felt louder now, like the sound had been turned up. Then Howard said, Would you like to walk through the market? I want to buy oranges. And if I go alone, I'll probably come back with apples. Lena laughed again. Sure, she said. Let's get your oranges. They walked slowly between stalls. Howard asked questions about prices, then forgot the answers, then asked again. The vendors didn't seem annoyed. They answered patiently, like they had seen this before. At a fruit stall, Howard pointed at a pile of oranges. Those, he said. Bright ones. They look like small suns. The vendor smiled. Good choice, she said. These are sweet. Howard bought a bag and handed one orange to Lena. A thank you snack, he said. Lena peeled it as they walked. The smell was fresh and sharp. She offered a piece to Howard and he took it. After a while, they stopped near a stall selling handmade notebooks. Leather covers, colorful paper, gold stamps on the front. Howard stared at them, almost like he was tempted. Thinking of an upgrade, Lena asked. Howard laughed. My notebook is ugly, he said. But it's loyal. And if I change it now, I might lose the habit. Lena nodded. Habits are fragile when they are new. She understood that. Howard looked at her with curiosity. So, he said, what brought you to Bristol? Lena thought for a moment. She could give a short answer or a real answer. Howard had shared something real, so she decided to do the same. I needed a reset, she said. My last job was stressful. My last relationship ended badly. And I realized I was staying in my old city because it was familiar, not because it was good. Howard nodded slowly. A reset can be healthy, he said. But it can also feel lonely. Yes, Lena admitted. Exactly. That's why I forced myself to go to a cafe this morning. And then your notebook happened. Howard smiled. Well, he said, I'm glad it did. He looked at the notebook in his pocket. Sometimes the world sends you a small task, he added. And if you do it, something opens up. They walked on, and Lena felt the truth of that sentence. The city still felt new, but it didn't feel cold anymore. Real quick, if you're enjoying this story, give it a like. It helps other learners find the lesson, and it tells me you want more B1 stories. And in the comments, tell me this. Have you ever returned a lost item to someone? What happened? When the market started to thin out, Howard checked the time. I should go home, he said. My sister is calling tonight, and I need to be ready. Do you want me to walk with you? Lena asked. Howard considered it, then nodded. Yes, he said. If you don't mind. I'm fine during the day, but at dusk I get a little confused. The light changes and my brain changes with it. They left the market and walked along a quieter street. Howard lived in a small building with a front garden. In the garden, a few flowers still held on, stubborn and bright. At the door, Howard stopped and searched his pockets. He frowned. Then he laughed at himself. Keys, he said, and pulled them out of his coat. I wrote it down. Keys, wallet, phone, notebook. And still, I panic. That's human, Lena said. She meant it. Howard opened the door and turned to her. Thank you, he said again. But this time, let me do something for you. Lena blinked. What do you mean? Howard reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. It was a simple printed card with text and a tiny map. Community board, it said at the top. This is the neighborhood community center, Howard explained. They have classes and events. Sometimes they need volunteers. And sometimes they just need people to show up. Lena looked at the card. It listed things like cooking night, book swap, and beginner art class. I don't know if it's your thing, Howard said. But it helped me after my wife died. It gave my week some shape. Lena swallowed. Thank you, she said. I've been looking for something like this. Howard smiled, and this time his smile looked lighter. Good, he said. And if you go, tell them Howard sent you. They'll roll their eyes and say, not Howard again. Lena laughed. I will, she said. The next day, Lena worked as usual. But in the evening, she found herself reading the community center card again. There was an event called Tea and Stories on Wednesday. It sounded gentle, not scary. On Wednesday, she went. The center was a simple building with bright posters in the window. Inside, people sat around tables with mugs and plates of biscuits. Someone waved at her as soon as she entered. It was Mrs. Patel from the library. Lena, she said, as if they were old friends. I'm glad you came. Lena sat next to her, feeling nervous again. Around them, people chatted about small things. Weather, bus schedules, a new bakery on the corner. The talk was simple, but it felt warm. A woman at the front clapped her hands softly. Welcome, everyone, she said. I'm Caroline. Tonight we share short stories. Nothing perfect, nothing fancy, just something real. People took turns. One man talked about learning to cook after a divorce. A young mother talked about her toddler saying a new word. A student talked about failing a test and trying again. Lena listened and felt her shoulders relax. These stories were not dramatic, but they mattered. They made life feel shared. Then Caroline looked toward Lena. We have a new face tonight, she said kindly. Would you like to share? No pressure, she added. You can pass. Lena's heart beat fast. She could pass. That would be safe. But she remembered Howard's sentence. Sometimes the world sends you a small task. And if you do it, something opens up. She took a breath. I can share something short, she said. Caroline nodded and smiled. Go ahead, she said. Lena told the story of the notebook. She explained how she found it, how she called, and how she walked to the library. She didn't share private details about Howard, but she shared the feeling. The feeling of doing a small helpful thing in a new place. When she finished, the room was quiet for a second. Then people clapped softly. Not like a show. Like support. Mrs. Patel leaned toward Lena and whispered, "See. You belong here." Lena felt her eyes sting a little. She laughed at herself quietly and took a sip of tea. After the event, people stayed to talk. Caroline asked Lena where she lived and suggested a good bakery nearby. A man offered her a spare chair at a weekend board game group. Someone else asked if she liked hiking. Lena walked home with a strange feeling. She was still new, but she was not invisible anymore. The next morning, she received a message on her phone from an unknown number. "Hello, Lena," it said. "This is Howard. Mrs. Patel told me you went to the community center. I'm proud of you. Also, Samir brought the first photo. Would you like to see it?" Lena smiled at her phone. It was such an old-fashioned message, she thought. Proud of you. But it made her feel good. She replied, "Yes, I'd love to see it." "When?" Howard answered quickly. "Today at 3 at the library reading room." "And don't worry," he added. "I won't lose my notebook this time." Let's do a second short practice with some useful phrasal verbs. Listen first, then pause and repeat if you want. Phrase 1, I picked up the notebook. Phrase 2, I ran into him at the library. Phrase 3, we figured out the problem. Phrase 4, I looked for the right place on the map. Nice. Now back to the story. At 3 o'clock, Lena arrived at the library again. She found Howard in the same corner table with 2 teas waiting. This time he looked excited, like a child with a surprise. "Here," he said, pulling a small photo from an envelope. "It's the first one." Lena leaned forward. The photo showed the market clock tower. But it wasn't just the tower. In the picture, an orange peel lay on the ground like a spiral. A man in a green scarf stood near the entrance. And just behind him, slightly blurred, Lena could see herself. Walking and smiling without knowing she was being photographed. Lena stared. "Samir took this?" she asked. Howard nodded. "He said it was the moment the camera changed owners," he said. "And he wanted to remember it." Lena felt something open inside her, like a door. It was a strange feeling, but a good one. A reminder that she was part of this story now. "It's beautiful," she said. Howard smiled. "My wife would have liked it," he said. He looked at the picture again. "And you know what?" he added. "I didn't forget the promise." He tapped his notebook. "It says pick up photo at 3. Lena laughed. "I'm proud of you too," she said. Howard looked pleased. "Well," he said, "we're practicing. Both of us." They talked for a while. Howard told Lena about the old letters in the blue envelope. They were written by a young woman during the war, describing daily life. Not battles, not history book facts. Just small truths. Bread shortages. A neighbor's kindness. A joke that made people laugh on a hard day. "That's why I love the archives," Howard said. "They prove that ordinary life matters." He pointed at the photo again. "This is ordinary life," he said. "And it's worth keeping." Lena nodded. She thought about her own notebook with her simple lists. Maybe she could write something else too. Not just tasks. Small moments. Small feelings. Weeks passed. Lena kept her morning routine. She visited Harbor Cafe often, and the barista started remembering her order. She went to story night at the library. She joined a board game group on Saturdays, even though she lost most games. And she visited Howard for tea once a week. Howard still had confusing days. Sometimes he repeated the same story twice. Sometimes he forgot the name of a street or the day of the week. But he also had good days. Days when he laughed easily and remembered small details, like the smell of oranges. And every month, Samir brought a printed photo. One month it was a rainy bus stop with reflections on the ground. Another month it was a dog with a leaf stuck on its nose. Another month it was the library staircase covered in snow. Howard kept the photos in a folder. On the front he wrote, "1 year of looking." One day, Howard showed Lena a new page in his notebook. The page was titled New Promises. "Read one," he said, pushing the notebook toward her. Lena read the first line. "Ask for help when I need it." She looked up. Howard's eyes were serious. "That one is hard," he said. "I was raised to be independent. But independence can become a cage." Lena nodded. She understood that too. She read the next line. "Teach someone what I know." Howard smiled. "I'm teaching Samir about old cameras," he said. "And I'm teaching you about the city history room. And you," he added, pointing gently at Lena. "You're teaching me to trust people again." Lena felt her throat tighten again. "That's a big thing to say," she whispered. Howard shrugged. "It's a big thing to feel," he replied. One evening, long after sunset, Lena sat at her own kitchen table. She opened her notebook to a fresh page. At the top she wrote promises. Then she wrote 3 lines. "Keep showing up. Say yes sometimes. And if I find a lost notebook again, return it." She smiled at the last line. It sounded silly, but it wasn't really about notebooks. It was about paying attention. It was about being brave in small ways. It was about letting a city become home. Now let's review a few useful words and phrases from the story. If you want, you can pause and repeat each one. A notebook, a small book for writing notes. A deadline, the last time you can do something. To return something, to give it back to the owner. To feel relieved, to feel better after stress or worry. A promise, a decision you want to keep. A routine, a habit you do again and again. A community, people living and sharing life together. To belong, to feel that you are part of a place or group. Now some phrasal verbs. To pick up, to take something from the ground. To look for, to search. To run into someone, to meet by chance. To figure out, to understand or solve. Great work! Before we finish, here are 3 quick comprehension questions. Listen, think, and if you want, answer out loud. Question 1, where did Lena find the notebook? Question 2, why was the blue envelope important? Question 3, what was Howard's deal with Samir? Nice! And that's the end of our story. If you listened for this long, you did something strong. Listening is real practice, even when you feel quiet. Remember, you don't need big changes. You need small, steady steps. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe for more stories and speaking practice. And write a comment with 1 sentence. Tell me 1 small promise you want to keep this week. Thanks for listening. See you in the next lesson. Bye for now.